Hey everyone, we are Kairos Copychats. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
Today's episode will be an interview where we ask our guests about their experience with faith and how it's impacted them.
We believe that everyone's story is powerful and needs to be heard, no matter their background.
We're looking forward to knowing more about our guests and hearing what they have to say, and we hope you're excited to hear from them as well.
So buckle up and let's listen in. What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan,
I'm Jared.
and we are Kairos Copychats.
This podcast exists as a safe space for you to bring your questions and rethink faith so you can encounter Jesus personally.
Welcome back to another interview here on Kairos Copychats. We're so glad you are here joining us today.
I'm pumped, bro. Not as pumped as this guy. Literally.
If you guys are watching the video, this guy is massive.
Yeah.
You guys will love this one. We got our brother Drevan Barfield on the podcast. Let's go.
What's good?
Also, low-key, this is the first time I've heard his full name, and it honestly goes harder than your nickname. It's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, we are so excited to have Dre for short on our podcast today. He is a brother in Christ. We have known each other for now a little over 2 years at least.
2 years, yeah.
At least.
2 years.
It's definitely been longer than that, I felt. And Dre is my wife's best friend's boyfriend. So,
There it is.
and
There it is.
hope soon to be something more in the future. I know it's in the works.
It will be.
Yeah,
It will be.
There we go. We're so excited to hear from Dre this afternoon, and but yeah, and then go ahead and share a little more about like you guys' friendship too, if you want.
Oh, we just send reels back and forth.
We do. Just reels.
Like I legit, I'm not even going front. Like we haven't hung out a ton outside of like house church and stuff, but reels is a love language, and there's so many people I know who will identify with that. Yeah. It's so funny. There was a point where I was just like scrolling through Instagram, and I just see like, oh, Dre like this, and like we're like, oh, another friend who we've already interviewed, Mesh. He liked it. So I was just like, screw it. We're in a group chat now.
You need to add me to it because I see all three of your guys' likes.
That's
on every
right.
post.
We gotta add
Every time I see what you guys like, and that's my feed now. Is what you guys like. And then I see Mesh commenting on everything.
Yo, Mesh is a commenter, bro.
He goes hard in the comments. He does. He's like, I'm present. In these comments, I'm present.
And then he'll actually respond to them on
If
his own
there's good
stories
ones,
too.
it takes so much for me to comment on something, man. It has to be something like it's literally only. I'm not a keyboard warrior in the least bit. We're excited to hear from Dre. I'm excited. But before we get to that, we have our icebreaker. And the icebreaker comes with a caveat because we're all Pokemon nerds up in here.
Yes, we
Let's
are.
go.
So
Yes, we are.
tomorrow you wake up in the world of Pokemon. What is the first thing you're doing?
Oh, man.
So many options.
So many.
How old am I?
Yeah, exactly. That's perspective.
Okay,
That's perspective. There you go.
Okay, we'll just say how old you are now.
Okay.
So
Okay.
You first.
All right. So, honestly, I'd probably pick a flying Pokemon. So, I'd go with Lugia because we were just talking about it earlier.
just any old flying Pokemon.
Literally, we just did a Poke Raid earlier before this.
Yeah.
Amazing.
This thing got
Anyways.
delayed because he was like, "Yo, there's a raid here, bro."
There was
Pulled
a
out our
delay.
phones.
There was a delay. But anyways, I would do that. So just no more traffic. No more. Just fly completely over it, and then just like, hey, you can go fly around. Just get out of here. You're not gonna be stuck in this this region. So then just have him fly, and then that's it.
True.
But you need to go and find him first. Like, what if you wake up in like the first town?
Okay,
that
see,
you're
but
in?
I
The
was assuming that I just wake up and he's just chilling right there.
Okay, it's not that ideal. you gotta do some legwork.
You can't just catch Lugia in
This
the beginning of
isn't-
your journey.
this is-
I just go to the ocean. He's there.
He's there.
He exists
in
the
anyone.
ocean.
Bro, this isn't I remember we always talk about how easy the games are now compared to when we played.
Yeah,
I
they're
remember
so
playing.
easy.
I played Shining Pearl.
Oh.
I was in Floroma Town, and it's like there's this trick where like if you played one of the Let's Go games, they're like, oh,
Yes.
you've been to Kanto. This old lady just gives you Mew.
Oh, that's right. She does. Yeah.
I was
got
like,
Mew. She does.
It appalled me.
It was so hard to get Mew in
It's impossible. I never
games.
caught Mew outright. That was the first time I ever owned Mew.
I didn't, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I don't
there's
think
no
I
way.
cut it out right either.
And so I was like, I'm not using this. No. I just put it in my box.
Just chilling in your box.
I just chill. It just stayed there. I refused to have that absolute cheat code throughout the whole game. That early too. Anyways, all that being said, first thing I do, I wake up, I'm finding myself an Onyx. I'm catching an Onyx because Steelix is my favorite.
Oh, okay.
Like
bet.
giant rock snake, bro. I need that in my life. I need that. It's best Pokemon,
That honestly
dude.
would be terrifying, honestly. It's just, you show up to house church with the Steelix. It's just chilling outside. You're like, it's just huge.
Right?
Just hanging out in the playground over here.
Just this 30-foot long,
Just curled up in the parking lot.
chilling, bro. Nah, yeah, Steelix has always been my favorite, bro.
While you guys are out here getting like ginormous Pokemon, I'm gonna go for the Rowlet.
Okay.
You know,
Yes.
Small boy.
I'm gonna be
Yes.
born, or I'm gonna like wake up on Alola and actually like get a starter Pokemon and start from the beginning, go through all the child.
Such
Okay,
nobility.
I still want to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
Such
that.
nobility. No, I want to go straight for the legendary.
You know, I feel like I'm giving myself a handicap because we all know Onyx's freaking attack is terrible.
You see, I'm merely a collector.
No, you didn't.
Merely a collector.
That is like our running joke.
Oh my gosh.
Jessica still needs to watch Pokemon 2000 for that.
That's like my favorite movie.
I know.
Can you invite me over?
Yeah, we'll do a watch party. We'll do it.
I
Yeah.
would love
I'll
that.
come down from LA. That's what I'll drive.
No, yeah,
down.
yeah.
I'll drive
Absolutely.
down.
Absolutely.
It's so good. Yeah.
Whoo! Great
All right, we
icebreaker.
came here to talk about other things. We can go on a Pokemon tangent for so freaking
That was
long.
a- that was a great
so we're gonna
icebreaker,
reel it
though.
in a little bit.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, I just reminded myself that not everyone listening is a Pokemon nerd. So I guess we'll get on with what we came here to
Hopefully
do.
you didn't fast forward already.
Yo, for real.
To the meaty stuff. But speaking of childhood and the things we grew up with, let's get into it, Dre.
Sure.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's start from the beginning. Where are you from? What was family life like? Did you grow up with this faith background at all? Tell us more about your childhood, bro.
Sure. Alrighty, so I grew up on a small island called Lanai, and it's in Hawaii as part of the Hawaiian Islands. It's probably the second smallest, third smallest. Grew up in a population of about 3,300 people.
That's small.
Very small.
What?
Yeah,
That's
graduating class, 45 people. 45.
Dang.
So, needless to say, everyone knew everybody. You know, no one is really a stranger. And just growing up in that community, you realize, like, just how much you crave, you know, just being a part of a community, being together with people. So that became a huge value with me. And then, so I grew up there. Pretty simple life. Love going to the beach. You know, love exploring. A lot of nature. A lot of, again, togetherness. You know, you do a lot of things together. And growing up, I did have a faith background. I was raised Catholic. I attended Catholic service every single Sunday. Even went about becoming an altar boy, you know, served. I thought it was, you know, just the calling of my time to, you know, to serve the Lord. And I did that.
Is altar boy, is that like an actual, like, I don't want to say position, but like, is that a thing in the church? I've always heard it as just like, oh, he's an altar boy, like it's like a diss. But is that like an actual thing that you can like label you get?
From what I can recall, like going through the training, so to speak, you know, you learn how to like the processions, like, you know, when the pastor, you know, does this, it's like a signal for an altar boy to, you know, do this. So I believe it's a position of the church. It's more so a coming of age type of thing, where it's just like you would segue into maybe, you know, studying the word more, or getting a degree in it, or becoming a deacon, or, you know, something of that regard. So I did that for a little stint. got to high school, and honestly, like, to be honest, and this is a very honest thing, got kind of bullied for it. Just like, damn, you're an altar boy. That's weird. I'm like, okay, I don't want to be weird, so kind of just like,
okay.
yeah, I'm not gonna do that no more. I'm trying to be cool like everybody else,
Yeah.
which is definitely not, the design. But hey, I was a kid, so decided to leave that behind, and ultimately, in conjunction with that, I believe that I fell off. I stopped going to church. It became less important to me. And it was more so just one of those things like, okay, let's go for Christmas, or let's go for midnight mass, or let's go for Easter, just the important things.
So then what did daily life look like if based on how integrated it was in your life before? Like, was that a drastic shift, or just like kind of like a natural falling away? Like, my life looks different now. I'm not going to do all this churchy stuff now. Like, what did that look like?
So it was actually, at the time, it did feel natural. It felt like, I'm getting older. I'm becoming a teenager. I'm trying to figure out and navigate through life. And like every kid ever, they think they know the best. So I thought I knew the best. So I'm just like, I'm going to do this. I don't need to go to church anymore. But if I do have to, I can pray to God. I can pray wherever. I don't need to go to church to worship him. And I've developed just that attitude of like, church is anywhere for me, where, and I felt that was it. That was all I had to do. I pretty much just checked the box.
Would you say your family was like the biggest influence in bringing you to the Catholic Church at first? And then how do they feel when you wanted to pull away from that?
Sure. Okay. So in the beginning, we would go to church a lot as a family. My mom was very active in the church. She volunteered. She was a part of a lot of church events. But, growing up, there was some things that happened with the church and happened between my mother and the church itself, which ultimately led her to leave the church because of just, the distrust and things that went down with the church. And I believe that was a huge catalyst for all of us because as soon as my parents stopped going, we stopped going. So
it was all kind of like happened at the same time.
Yeah, it was kind of like a domino effect where we learned what had happened, and we're just like, I don't want to be associated with that. I don't want to, that to happen to me. So it was it was just the unfortunate thing that happened, that the lack of trust with the church that caused the rift.
And you said do you have siblings who also are at church, or was it
Yes.
just you and your parents?
So it was my mom, my older sister, and 2 younger sisters at the time. I have 6 sisters. I should have said that in the beginning.
Oh,
6. I have 6 sisters.
That's wild.
Yeah.
you're just an
A lot of
anomaly
sisters.
in there, bro.
I'm just an anomaly. Like, I am the only one of my kind in that family.
I am unique.
I am unique.
That's good.
Yes.
Interesting. So in this time, you guys start pulling away. Was this like you said, high school or so, or?
It was going into high school, which honestly made it feel more natural at that point, because
Natural transition to life kind of thing.
I thought
It's
it was
just
like,
all right, that
I'm
was-
growing out of it, basically. It was. I thought it was normal. That was a normal thing to just grow up, not go to church anymore, and then you just revisit it back in another life.
Yeah.
I
I can resonate with that in a sense. Like didn't really have a relationship with the Lord until like late high school. In that beginning time, it was just like, I believe in God. Like, you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, I'm not gonna completely just drop it. It was like it was nothing more than a chain around my neck or something like that. Maybe. So, you said you did this to like kind of fit in? Was that like because the community aspect was so big? Did you find that some like community and friends in that, since you weren't in the Catholic Church anymore? What did it look like once you phased out of it?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, going into high school, you kind of just, you find yourself. I had a natural, I guess, direction towards, getting good grades, with the help of my parents who pushed me way past what limits that I thought I had to get good grades. And sports. Fell in love with tennis. Played tennis all throughout high school.
This is something I just learned about you, actually.
Exactly. But, you
and is it wrong to say that I was like surprised you played tennis?
It's an honest reaction because back in high school, I was only about 100 pounds. I was really small. And now, disclaimer, I am like 200, 205.
Testosterone.
None of that. None of that. But I was a lot more nimble and faster and whatnot. So fell in love with tennis. I got it from my older sister. She played it growing up as well. And fell in love with that. I did cross country for a stint because my uncle was, state championship, and I just wanted to live up to that as well, So it was a lot of worldly factors that I was just trying to live up to. And I thought that was just the way of life. That was just what you do.
Is that from your parents? You said they pushed you past those limits, and then you said, oh, I want to be like my uncle. Was it just like, was it an unsaid kind of pressure from your family, or was it very overtly said?
I think it was overtly said, and as a kid, you think that your parents getting on you for good grades is like, oh my gosh, they're getting on me. But looking back now, you're just like, I'm so glad that they pushed me.
Mm-hmm.
I do. So in a way, yes, it was like overdoing it, but now as I'm older, I see that this is the way. This
the
is
utility.
What, this
in
is
it,
the
yeah.
way. This is what it was supposed to be. I'm gonna be saying a lot of lines like that.
I bet.
You're fitting right in, bro.
Nah, for real. I felt that. So my parents were not born in mainland China. They were born here in the U.S., but they still carried also some expectation that I need to do well in school. And I also put that pressure on myself to do well in school. Whereas the majority of my other Asian friends in the town I lived, they also had parents putting that expectation on them. They were a little more strict in how they went about their kids' futures. And so I kind of had a little bit of both, like a little bit of freedom, but also expectation like, hey, you need to focus on your school. And I feel like that's not a bad thing, because I feel like all of us are encouraged to do school and to do well in school. That's like our lives until we're 18 here in this world nowadays.
Definitely.
Like school is so important.
Yeah.
It's like a value of society now that you be educated. And so a lot of the talks that we have about in culture today surround school. And yeah, like that's like a quarter of your life is school.
I just think it's so funny hearing these perspectives, and then growing up, like I knew from like the age of 8, I wanted to aim to be a professional tennis player.
I feel like your story's rare, but also really cool.
Oh, I'm extremely rare. That's why I'm like I'm juxtaposing this to you guys.
Sure.
So this is like having you guys is like sobering. So I'm like, oh yeah, people care a lot more about school in the real world. But no, but the caveat is my dad was an elementary school principal and teacher for his career. Like that's what he did. So he worked in education. He knew like the importance of it, and it wasn't exactly looked down upon, but it had that healthy balance of like, as long as that's fine, which I never really like struggled with classes or anything, but it's just like you take care of those priorities, then you can give yourself fully to this other thing.
Yeah.
But I think to what you were saying, it's like that pressure is good. It can help you in a sense.
Yes.
It's just, and I wonder how much of this is not in a joking way, but just the stereotype of Asian parents is just like, is meeting the expectation just a break even? Or is there any like positive reinforcement of their end of that? Or is it like, if you don't meet it, it's just all downhill? Because my brother, he dated this Asian girl in high school, and it was like, that was like my first glimpse of it. She had just strict parents. Like her parents didn't know they were dating, kind of thing. Like she was hiding her phone and when you had to pay for minutes and stuff. Like all these kind of things. Like they only met like at school. And I don't know. I'm trying to put myself in that scenario, and it's just like so bleak, honestly. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like it sounds like terrible. Like I guess the only part is like you had friends who were also in the same boat.
Yes.
So it's like, all right, like this is life. You can kind of get away with it in that sense, but I don't know. That's just super tough to find that healthy balance.
Yeah.
And also, not get scarred by it.
So yeah, school was a lot. Was pushed really, really hard, and junior year was basically my rebel year. Decided to just rebel out, get into some things that you're not supposed to get into as a kid. Started doing that a lot just to fit in again. And it wasn't until almost the end of junior year where, a big thing happened and my parents ended up catching me. And just the look of disappointment in their eyes, it broke me. So I'm just like, I made a vow to myself and my parents. I'm like, look, I'm going to change. I'm going to get good grades again and get better. And so I started attending church again. I went back. Didn't think I was, welcome there. But then, open arms. Community was there. Like, I had friends there. And it was great. Joined the choir. Thought it was my thing.
Crazy.
Thought it was my thing. Thought I was a singer at that point, singing in the shower.
God couldn't let you. Come on, if you can sing, you look like this. You're athletic.
You look like this. You got it all.
What
bro.
the heck, bro? To whom God gives a lot, He gives even more. Apparently,
The rich get richer. No kidding.
yo, for
Rich
real
get
though.
See, but I share my wealth, though. I share it.
Gotta share these pipes.
So I did that. I thought it was, the most noble thing ever. But looking back now, it did feel like I was just checking off a box. I was checking that box off. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm good.
Like making up for the mistakes.
Exactly.
Okay.
I've atoned for it just by coming back just this, span of time before I graduated.
A little temporary band-aid.
Exactly. That's exactly what
yeah.
it was. So fast forward, graduated, felt good about myself, joined the military. Long line of military personnel.
What
in my
brought on
family.
the military decision?
So my growing up, we weren't, as well off. Like, we did our best. I remember getting my first job when I was 14. I started busting tables, make a quick extra buck. And so my parents gave me a choice. They were like, hey, either you go to work or, you go to school or you join the military. Both of which I didn't want to do at the time. I hated school. I hated, I didn't hate to work. I love that there was money. But then they don't tell you this growing up. Like, when you get your paycheck, there's certain thing called taxes. Growing up, you're like, oh my gosh, like you calculate. Like, I remember calculating my first check. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna get like $800, and then plus like getting tips and whatnot. Yeah. I'm like, I was ecstatic, to say the least. I get my check. It's like $300 are taken away from me.
That's so
I'm
much,
like,
bro.
What? How is this possible right now? And my parents are like, those are taxes.
Those are taxes.
Those are taxes.
You know the roads you drive on?
Yeah.
That's your money right there.
That's your money.
That's $500
your
gone.
money at work.
That education that you received? Yeah, that was that. And so it was miserable. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just going to join the military. And
That's the alternative that I was given.
I'm going to do it. And I felt like really noble about it. I felt like, this was a sacrifice and that I knew good things would come about from it. I knew that the benefits received would have been just amazing. And that was the time where I really started focusing on working out. I'm just like, I don't want to be 120 pounds for the rest of my life. Nothing wrong with that.
Easy.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. It's just being the smallest guy, growing up the entire time. You get bullied. You get pushed around a lot.
I feel that.
Yeah,
I feel that.
And it's just, I didn't want that anymore. So started working out. I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to get so jacked in the military. Just jacked, And I did. I did. I went into a job called aviation ordnance. So what happens is it's either you're up in the flight deck and you're helping, load, missiles, rockets, bombs onto planes.
Dang.
And stuff's heavy.
Stuff's heavy.
Or
Actually heavy.
or you're down in what we call magazines, and those are storage places where they have everything that's there, and you're still carrying stuff.
Yeah.
And so most of my strength was developed, through just every day, like 12,
On the job.
12, 14-hour days, just lifting stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. And, you don't get paid hourly in the military. It's just
So they just
straight shot.
ring you.
Yeah, exactly. To the last bit. One of my first deployment, it was amazing. It was also very terrifying. Went to places like Hong Kong, Singapore. What else?
I haven't heard someone say I went on deployment. It was amazing. Like it was a vacation.
It was not.
I'm
being very facetious right now.
Okay. All right.
It
Maybe I'm thick. It didn't come across.
It was probably like the hardest point. Well, up until that point in my life, it was the hardest point in my life. You're on this metal ship with the same people for 8, 9, 10 months, and there's the happy times, where you connect, you have a great time, you have the stories that you can tell later on in your life, but then you have those times where you're just down in the ditches and you're miserable. You're miserable. And then there's also those times where you're just looking out into the ocean, you're like, what am I doing here?
Existential crisis.
What am I doing here? And ultimately, with just every mixture of that, I got, into drinking alcohol and drinking a lot of it. Came back from my first deployment. Go ahead, did I? Okay.
No.
Came back from my first deployment. All I wanted to do was party. All I wanted to do was drink and go out, smoke, and whatnot.
I can imagine you're probably not the only one in the military.
Oh, that's every day. That's everybody.
Yeah.
You wake up and you're doing it. You do it right after work. You go to sleep with it. It's just becomes so natural a part of life. And I'm not trying to, paint a bad picture on the military, but you encounter a level of stress, anxiety, and just trauma from whatever it is that you've been through and done that you have no place else to go to cope with it. And so you think the easiest way out is that
Self-medicate.
yeah. Exactly. So in that time I was far away from God at that point. I had I still prayed. I mean, I felt like, if I pray tonight, like I'll be good. He'll take me away from this thing. And I still found myself making the conscious decision to just keep drinking, to keep self-medicating. One of my second deployment, same thing, same trauma, just the same thing every single day. After that deployment, I got out, decided to become a personal trainer. Picked up personal training.
Makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Picked up personal training, quickly rose through the ranks and got my master personal, certification. And I was loving life for a time. Fast forward a little bit, and I was still self-medicating a lot. I was drinking a lot, and it was to the point where I couldn't go a morning without doing it.
Wow.
And it wasn't until like my second year being a personal trainer, where I was just like, okay, yeah, I can't keep doing this anymore, because then the bills started piling on. Rent was due, utilities, I had to fix my car. I had a flat tire. And it was to the point where I had to choose whether or not to eat or to fill up my gas tank. It was the darkest time in my life, both physically, mentally, and spiritually. And that came with the mental shift in me. I'm just like, I gotta get help. Sought out AA, sought out counselors, and they ultimately was just like, yeah, so what's your favorite thing to do? I'm like, work out. That's my favorite thing to do. They're just like, do that. Anytime you feel like you want to, take a sip, go work out. And that's exactly what I did.
What?
Exactly what that was probably the biggest shift in me to conquer alcoholism. Because, you know, to an extent, from a scientific backpoint or viewpoint, you know, I was a functioning alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had to have that in me to function. I got clean. I was good for almost 3 years. Sober. I was sober. Had my first drink, and I didn't feel like, you know, I had to, you know, drink anymore and stuff like that. So I've developed a point to where I can drink and manage myself.
Wow.
I can, you know, I'm basically the, you know, what everyone who has, you know, alcoholism, they strive to be, or they want to have that happy medium. And, you know, I'm very fortunate, very blessed to be able to do that. You know, I don't just go out just to drink now, but it's to a point where, like, I evaluate myself in that moment, like, okay, if I do drink, like, am I going to be good? And I'm good. You know, I don't go overboard. Safe about it. Stop when I have to stop.
That sounds like an incredible amount of self-control.
Very.
This, like, a lot of this sounds like it was just brought on. Like, you were just like, I don't want to say pick yourself up by your own bootstraps, but, like, you realized the depths where you are, and you wanted to pull yourself out. Was there anybody around you helping with it? I know you said you went to AA. Was there anybody there that you, like, connected with? Any friends around you who were just like, bro, like, I'll be here to help as well? Do you have any gym buddies?
I had a couple gym buddies, but I think my main people that were there by me that, you know, brought me out of that rut were my parents, or was my grandmother. You know, I would call her, and she'd be like, "Yeah, you don't have to do that anymore. You know, just this nice old lady. You don't have to do that anymore." Like, she would say in the nicest voice possible. And then she would angrily say, like, "I'm going to come over there."
Oh, no.
If you don't stop.
Oh.
And then I'm just like, "All right, Grandma, I'll stop. I'll stop, okay?"
Listen to you.
Gosh. Sweetest old lady you ever meet. Strong-willed as ever. And then COVID happened. COVID happened. Got into a little bit of drinking again. Not to the point where, you know, it was just horrible. But that was a real test, because I ended up losing my grandmother at, like, the very height of COVID. I remember, because I was working at the airport at the time as security, and I found out, and it broke me. It broke me. I remember, you know, just driving home in complete silence, going to the bottle, started drinking again, and I was just like, she was there for me. What now? And then, you know, lockdown happened, had to stay home a lot. I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to work security anymore. Like, who? No offense. No offense at all. I'm just like, I don't want to be a security guard anymore. So I decided to go back to school. I'm just like, let me go get my associates. Let me just bang this out. I get it for free anyway. You know, I get BAH from the military. You know, they'll help me pay for my rent and, you know, whatever else costs.
It's huge.
I just have to be a full-time student. In that time, I ended up still working security, still being a personal trainer, and still going to school. Just overcompensating for everything.
God dang, boy.
It's a lot.
I had the money, I had, you know, this just everything, but I still felt like I was struggling. Just mentally, just struggling. Every day was just a battle. And I was in a very toxic relationship with someone who had a child. So that in and of itself was just what I thought was noble. Again, I thought it was being the noble person by taking upon the mantle of, you know, becoming a father to that child. I thought it was just the greatest calling. Turns out it was not. I just found myself just feeling more and more empty every single day. And just, to that regard, I'm not saying like it was all horrible. Like, obviously there was some good.
Right.
I was in that relationship for about 3 years. I became a father to that child. Learned a lot about myself and like where I want to be in life. But it was just bad. It was just very toxic for me. Decided to cut things off. And I remember cutting it off. And after talking to my dad about what had happened, I just broke. I broke down. Tears, everything. Like I remember I was in my room just sobbing uncontrollably. And I didn't know what to do. And so I got down on my knees and I was just like, I'm lost. I'm like, God, I'm lost. Like, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know who to be. It was in that moment where, like, I felt the Holy Spirit. It was the first time that I actually felt like I felt the Holy Spirit, embrace me. Being raised Catholic, like, now that I see it, it can be very legalistic at times. Mm-hmm. So the people that I do meet that have been raised Catholic, we have this same conception where it's just like, yeah, I didn't really feel the Spirit. You don't feel the Spirit being, a Catholic. You know that God's there. You know that He's your Savior, and you pray to Him, but it feels very transactional. It's like you do good for Him, He'll answer your prayers. You don't, He's not going to answer you.
It's like a business deal.
A business deal,
yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
And into that regard, I'm like, Lord, I didn't know who to be anymore. But as time passed, I met a wonderful woman. Her name is Giselle. You guys know her. We've been dating for almost 2.5 years now, or over 2.5 years now.
Here we go.
Oh my God. It's been amazing, to say the least. So shout out to Giselle.
She's definitely listening to this right now.
She's definitely listening to this
tearing
right
up.
now.
She's probably tearing up right now listening to you.
I met her.
We're about to lay on the heaviest glaze.
You thought it was over. It's not. So I met her. We met at the gym.
Of course.
There we go.
Of course. Met at the gym. Laid on the charm. And by laid on the charm, I meant awkwardly staring at her from across the way. And just, not doing anything. Because I was coming out of a relationship. A very horrible relationship. And I didn't know who I was.
How far between the two when you ended the first one, like... stared awkwardly.
So we had already been staring at each other awkwardly while I was still there. Wow. But not to the regard where like it was, like a romantic type of way. Yeah. But I want to say like maybe 6 months.
Okay.
Maybe 6 months. And then I just remember I'm just like, there's just something about her. And I just come out from being, sobbing to God. And I would just see her at the gym, and I'm like, I gotta talk to her. I do. I have to talk to her. And then so I'm literally praying to God before I, enter the gym. I'm like, God, it's your boy, Dre. Like, I remember saying that vividly.
No,
vividly, it's your boy.
You know who it is.
You know who it is. Like
from the transactional, non-personal guy, you just... this end.
Complete shift. And I'm like, Lord, I remember asking for confidence to talk to her because I was nervous as heck. Nervous. Like for those of you out there, like talking to a person of, the opposite in the gym is the most terrifying thing in the world. Because they're in their own realm. They're in their own place and you don't want to bother them.
You just imagine there's no opportune time.
None.
There's no opportune time.
None. Because
rest time is rest time in between sets.
Exactly. And I very much believe that. Like I'm that type of person. Like if you don't have to talk to me in the gym, don't talk to me. Not saying I'm not open to say hi and say what's up and I'll do that. But if I got my headphones in, don't talk.
There's
to me.
a reason.
There is.
Just treat it like public transport.
Exactly. Just like, you don't know me, I don't know you. If you'd like to know me, fine, but that kind of thing. But I had to get to know her. And so I prayed for that confidence for days. And finally, like, I felt it within me to just go up to her. Went up to her and said this. I'm like, did you want to add more weight to that? And I'm just like,
I didn't know this.
bro, what? I felt so high. I was riding a high at that point. And she just looks at me, just dumbfounded. And she's like, no? Just straight up, no? And I'm like,
No going along with it.
I failed.
Just
I failed so hard. So hard.
yo.
Babe, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. But she tells this story all the time. She
love
does.
it.
There we go.
I love
She
it.
tells it all the time.
Now you get to put it on blast.
And exactly.
Put
I get
yourself
to
on
tell
blast.
in my own light, I was just super nervous. And, I did it. And I guess, something stick. Because every day after that, we'd see each other. We'd say hi. Be a fist bump or like a nod. It was still very awkward. It was an awkward thing. And it was because, like, I feel like it was me, because, like, I was just going through something that now that I do realize it, I didn't realize that before, that I didn't actually know who I was.
Whoa.
I didn't.
Huh.
I didn't. There was, between, what happened during COVID, losing loved ones, being in the military and just being in that that toxic relationship, like, I didn't know who I was. I knew my name, I knew what I did, but I didn't know who I was. So we get to talking, I get her number, finally. What felt like
I want to hear what the
forever.
second sentence you said was. Like, what was the follow-up after that?
No. We'll talk about that.
All right.
Offline.
Off air.
Fast forward a little bit to where I got her number. We start talking, and there was another night where, we were just bearing what I felt like was, like, just vulnerability. We're asking each other, like, oh yeah, so how's your faith? Do you believe in God? And I was just like, yeah, I know that there's a higher power there. It's just I'm not, I don't really have a connection. And she had explained to me, she's just like, yeah, like, having a relationship with God is a value that I hold close to my heart. And I'm just like, well, how do I get that? Like, how do I do that? and it was one night I was in my room, and we were talking about just the trauma that I had went through. And I start crying. I start sobbing. I call Giselle up, and I'm just like I need you. I need you to pray for me. I'm just sobbing at this point. I'm pretty sure on the other end of the phone call, it's just crying. And it was in that moment that I knew that, yeah, God brought her into my life for a reason, for reasons beyond my knowing that, she was the one that was supposed to be there. She prayed over me, and I just felt an overwhelming sense of just love. The type of love that, like, that you feel in the movies, or that you feel, reading your favorite book or something like that. But it's just, it's love in its purest form, to have somebody to just care about you. And asked her out. We went out on the fourth day of me asking her to be my girlfriend. I told her that I loved her. No shame.
Whoa.
No shame at all. I'm just like I'm in love with this woman. I bared my soul to her. I'm just like, I do. I love you. Like, that's just, I know it for sure. I prayed to God, like, who am I? Who am I going to be with? And he was just like, here you go. Here you
Drop this in your lap right now.
you prayed for it, so here you go. And then in that time, like, me and Giselle were going to church. We were going to a First United Methodist Church in National City. It was great. I felt like I was, reconnecting with God again. I was praying, but still felt like there was something missing. Still felt it. So she comes to me one day. She's like, "Hey, Jessica is inviting me to this thing called house church," and I'm just like, "House church? Like,
What the heck is that?
What is that? What is that?" And legit, my reaction was just like, I don't think I want to go. Like, I feel like
Understandable.
not so much like above it, but to the point where it's just like I feel weird going to it.
Fair enough.
And
Weird because you didn't understand what
I didn't understand what it was.
Okay.
And she was like, "Come on, let's go. It's gonna be great." And then I'm just like, we get here. I'm just like, dude, what if they don't like me? What if they don't like me? Stepped inside and immediately just was welcomed. I had already going into this. I had already knew Ryan and Jessica, great people. I was just like, "Oh, hey," and then that's like the only people I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just like, "Yeah, what's up? I'm Dre," that kind of thing. Just nervous as heck.
When did you come?
2 years ago? Is it 2 years ago? About?
We were still in the cottage, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
still in
yeah,
college.
okay.
2 years ago.
Definitely 2 years ago. Then.
2 years
Yeah.
ago, I meet them. I meet Bennett for the first time.
Yeah, there we go.
Great dude.
Yeah.
Bennett's a great dude.
Uh,
And I'm just like, I'm like, yeah, we look like the same age, because he's a taller guy, and he's just like, "No, I'm like this age," and I'm like, "Bro, I'm like 6 years older than you."
Wait, what?
How?
How old's Bennett?
How old is Bennett? Like something like that, right? Like 4 to 6 years older.
This all the time.
And I'm like,
Poor Bennett.
"Bennett, what?" I'm like, I'm not trying to like say like you look old or something, but I just thought like
it's just
you act older, and that's
more mature.
there you go.
There we go.
This he
That's-
does.
that's a
This he
compliment.
does.
It is the biggest compliment, but what's it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay,
Bennett's
sorry.
young. Bennett is young. Anyways, so and then I start meeting people, and during house church, I'm just silent. I'm just listening. I'm being observant. I'm just like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to tell anybody about anything right now. And I remember just going into like the prayer partners beforehand, before we did house church.
Oh yeah, we did
And just
that.
being able to just talk with somebody and connect with somebody on that level, and then praying for them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, dude, this is next level. Like this is next level. And we keep going to house church, and then I was like, hey, like let's go to Grace Church for service this Sunday. I'm like, oh, here we go. I'm nervous again. And we get here. We're late, because we woke up late. We woke up late. No judgment, though.
Nah, bro.
No judgment at all.
Hey, you present. You present. That's what
we
matters.
we get in there, and I remember one of the first songs that I heard Sal sing was, "Great Are You, Lord." By the middle of that song, I'm in tears. I'm sobbing, straight up sobbing. And I look to my right, and Giselle's there too, sobbing, crying, wrecked, just emotionally wrecked. And like Sal's like ending the song, and then I hear it ending, and I'm like, wait, no, I'm still crying. Lights turn on, and I'm just like, no,
Exposed.
Now turn to your neighbor.
say hello. And I'm just I'm a little self-embarrassed at that point, but then I'm like whatever, no one knows me here, they're not gonna care. And almost I don't know how many consecutive weeks it was after that, but I just remember I just kept crying. I kept crying over the songs because of what I felt, and I felt like God was just speaking to me. He was like, hey, this is exactly where you need to be. This is the people that I wanted to surround you with.
It's always great to see him move in like actions like that. When you're going through all these uncomfortable situations.
Exactly.
And you're just like,
Exactly.
I don't know. And then you look back and be like, oh, all right, okay.
Exactly. And you don't see that until later. you know,
Oh.
and that speaks to a lot of, you know, God's planning. You know,
Mhm.
it's His will. You know, not to quote our series that's going on now, but like it's His will. It really is. You know, everything that happened to me, and for every blessing that came, you know, it's Him.
Mhm.
It was Him.
Mm.
So a year in, you know, just me and Giselle are talking about it, and we're like, she's like, "Would you get baptized again?" And I'm like, "Whoa, that's a whoa question there."
That's so.
Yeah, because what does that mean, being born and raised in the Catholic Church? What does that mean?
Sure, yeah. So in the Catholic Church, again, as I see it now, it's very legalistic. You know, there's rules and things that you have to be completed at a certain time, a certain age.
Mhm.
So when you're born, you know, as a baby, you get baptized. I have no recollection of me getting baptized ever.
Yeah.
None. You know, and then you turn, I was maybe, 6 or 7 or something like that. I did First Holy Communion.
Hmm.
There's a whole big ceremony, you know, a class of children taking First Holy Communion for the first time.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
accepting, the body and blood of Christ. And then after that, it's confirmation.
Mhm.
Confirmation comes to you at maybe 14 or 15, and it's you confirming that, you know, you were giving your life, your body, your soul, your heart to the Lord, to God. You're confirming that.
So it's like baptism in the Protestant Church,
Exactly.
but without the water.
Without the water, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then
Gotcha.
obviously after that, it's marriage, and then what comes after that? Didn't get that far there. So we're having this conversation. I'm just like, and I'm fighting with myself. I'm like, I've already done it. Why do I got to do it again? And then we just kept talking about it. We prayed over it. And I remember just everybody talking about it here at Grace Church. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to have baptisms and it's going to be so great. A lot of people are showing up. And then it was maybe a couple weeks out. Maybe. And I'm just like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. We're doing it. We're getting baptized. So we signed up. We signed up that day. Didn't tell a lot of people that we were getting baptized because I'm very introverted in nature. I don't like telling people a lot of that stuff. So I wanted to keep it quiet. Kept it quiet. I started bringing up the people to be baptized. And then everybody sees me in line. They're like, dude, you're getting baptized? I'm like, yup. You know, don't make such a big deal out of it. Like, you know, I'm just
hard not to when the angels are.
Exactly. I'm just doing this, you know? Just doing it. And it's my turn. I get up there. I get into the water. I'm like, okay, it's warm, thank God. Because it was cold it was super cold that day.
Yeah.
It was so cold. Like, I got sick after that because it was cold. Anyways, I step into the water with Josh. He's just like, you know, do you accept Lord Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? And I'm just like, yes. Dunked in the water, came up, everybody's clapping their hands. I'm like, I'm trying not to cry. You know,
Well, you're already wet, so
I'm already wet, so it doesn't
blend
matter.
it.
It didn't matter. And you know, that happened. I remember going home with Giselle afterwards, and you know, we prayed about it. We prayed what happened. Like, what does this mean now? What does it mean to be saved again? And to me at the time, it felt like a clean slate. It felt like to be able to be, you know, blessed, you know, from the Spirit. You know, getting out of that water again, I get to be anew again. I get to become who I'm meant to be. And so after I did that, I was like, I'm going to become a member. I'm going to become a member of Grace Church. So the design of Grace Church, from what I understand, you're supposed to become a member first. Then you do all of these things. But we went the backwards route, so it didn't matter. You got there. We got to where we needed to be in the end. So I decided to become a member. And I remember that Saturday morning of membership weekend, I got paired up with Yo. So you get paired up after you take the APES test to see like your affinity for your, you know, spiritual gifts that, you know, you may have. And I got prophet.
Dang.
Yep. And, you know, by God's design, the exact person I needed to meet was Yo.
Shout out.
Shout out to
Yo.
Shout out to Yo. Great man, humble, and just
Really.
full of knowledge.
Absolutely.
Full of
Truly.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I talk with him and I'm just like, you know, so what is this about? Like, and, you know, what does he do? And then he started talking about, you know, being a prayer partner. I'm like, okay, so what is that? I'm like, yeah, you know, we will stand up, you know, the stage and pray over, you know, people who come up. In that moment was the first, like, I guess, notion in me of what a conviction was. Something deep inside me was just tugging at my soul, was just like, do it. Do it. Volunteer for it. Like, become a prayer partner.
Just so different from Altar Boy.
So much different. I'm
Not a
talking.
prayer partner.
I'm talking like with Altar Boy. It was for the title. It was very like worldly to do that. But for this, I will now realize that it was to learn selflessness. It was to learn empathy. It was to soften, you know, my heart and to, you know, just be with people. So I volunteered for it. I remember going to my first luncheon. I'm just like, I don't know anybody here. But I know one, because Ryan was... No, wait, you didn't show up to that luncheon.
Because I wasn't able to show
You
up.
weren't able to show up. That's
Bro,
right.
left my guy
That's right.
hanging.
That's right.
I
You weren't
was out
able
of town,
to.
I think.
Yes, you were out of town. That's what it was. And so I'm just like, yeah, I don't know anybody here, so this is going to be great. But it was great. It was amazing because, you know, I got to find out about myself that I just love the thought of prayer. I knew that being in prayer, you know, with God was sacred. And it was something that I could do, you know, by myself or with others, and that it would just be my time with him. So as I, you know, progressed being a prayer partner and whatnot, I started to feel the stress and anxiety of my everyday life just kind of dissipate. So yeah, prayer became a like incredible thing in my life. And then to that regard, you know, became a part of my life where, you know, wake up in the morning, do it before, you know, I go to work or before I work out or while I'm driving to work or while I'm by myself. And then me and Giselle would pray together as well. And, you know, I started loving it. I started finding out how much prayer helps me mentally and spiritually. And in that time, by sheer, you know, God's will, we'd say coincidence, but coincidence is literally just God winking at you like, yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
This is what's going down right now.
I was like talking to someone about this, like, you know, when the author's trying to make a point in the Bible and they repeat something, it's like when something repeats in life, God's trying to make a point.
God's making a point to you right now. It's like, you didn't see the first time, well, we're going to pass by again.
We're gonna run the play again.
Run it back. So Yo, shout out to Yo again, starts the upper room. And the upper room is a sacred place to come, to pray, to worship Jesus that in the morning. So every Tuesday morning, he holds it at 6:00. Me and Giselle, we're stoked. We're like, but we got.
Are you stoked?
We got to find a way to go to the gym. So this, I feel, was like just like the height. Not saying that there's a decline, but you know, sometimes there is. There's a height of just my faith. You know, my faith is just is up there, and I'm like, yeah, I want to, like, yeah,
that
let's go
eagerness
do it.
you're
the
talking
eagerness,
about.
the yearning,
Yeah,
the
we all get
yearningness,
that, for
you know,
sure.
to pray. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, let's, you know, we'll try and work this out. So gotta wake up 3:30, be ready by like 4:15. You know, walk the dog, eat a little something.
Graveyard hours right there.
My gosh. Go work out, then go to the upper room, prayer time by 6 o'clock, then go to work by 8, and then do a whole days of work. And I'm talking on my feet for, that amount of time. And then driving home in the oh so great San Diego traffic.
It's not like LA, but it gets bad.
It's horrible.
It gets bad.
It's so horrible. Yeah. And then get to come home. So I make it home by like 6:30.
Every time I see you, I'm like, hey, Dre, how you doing? You're like, I'm tired. I'm like, haha. You're tired. No wonder. Oof, man. I literally made it the last prayer last year. And I was like, I did it once.
Oh, yes.
I made it to
the
one.
last one of the year. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Ryan, me and Ryan were talking about it. I tried weaseling out of it. I was like, boy, get there. Come on.
It's that conviction.
Right?
It's just the conviction.
Yeah.
You gonna do it this week then?
No.
I told you I'm gonna try, so I'm gonna do it.
No.
I'll try.
Anyway, let's keep it rolling before this becomes about me.
No worries. So he starts doing that. We start doing that for a couple of weeks. And during this time, I'll make this about Giselle a little bit. Giselle is trying to make it into dental school. She took the test. She got good scores, but in the scholastic view of things, probably not so great. So, she had a feeling that, she wasn't going to get accepted. I'm just like, look, we're going to pray. We're just going to keep praying. We're going to keep praying, to the Lord about this. And also in that time, we were dealing with her dad's sickness, his cancer. He's been fighting for 5 years now. Very long time.
Yeah.
Man is one of the strongest men I know. Just fighting the good fight, and just praying every single day, to be healed from that. So we're going through these things, and again, God's winking. He's like, pray. In this time, pray for what you need. Lay it down at my feet. And then we get the call. We get the call that, Giselle, not only, is in, but she receives a scholarship. So she receives a 4-year scholarship from the Army to basically go to school. And she gets paid. She gets paid as an Army officer.
Let's go.
I remember she was in the military too.
Yeah, she's in the military too. And so after her schooling, she gives her time back as an Army dentist. And that's all. That's the time that she gives back, and she gets paid. So, just the Lord blessing, that part of my life, and hers predominantly. Tears, literal tears. Just
Sensing a theme.
Yeah, a lot of tears. Lots and lots of tears. So you want to come into Christianity? Lots of tears. Lots of tears. But for
Who
good
said
good
men don't
reason.
cry?
Good reason. Men do cry. They do. If they have a good enough reason to, they will.
Absolutely.
You get to find out who you are. You get to be free from
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Very, very much so. And it just pulls something inside of you, to actually find that out. So she gets into school, and we're gearing up to move her up there, and it's just everything's so amazing. And I feel like my first decline like in faith.
Sure.
And I'm just like, wait, what's going on? What happened?
Wait.
What happened?
We were going good for a bit.
What happened? And now that I'm older, and then when I did realize in that moment that it wasn't enough to pray and to volunteer my time and to just go to church, there was something more that had to be done. And then that something more was to start reading the Bible, was to start learning what God's word is, what it teaches, and how important it is to know. Because if you just have faith in something but you don't know what it's really about, is that really faith?
Are you really hearing from God?
Are you really hearing from God, or is it just things that are just happening?
And
So
all just feelings at that point, right?
exactly.
Uh,
So it was a conviction. It was a conviction that I had to start getting more into the word. So it was probably during that time where Ryan, shout out to Ryan,
Shut up.
was just like, hey, do you want to be a part of my huddle? I'm like, what is a huddle? What is that? A huddle, I know, is like it's in football. You know, they just huddle up before play and stuff like that, and that's what it is. He's like, yeah, it's kind of like that, but we talk about the word. We discuss the word. You know what it means to us, like what the word actually means, and we do a deep dive into scripture. I'm like, I look up like as if I'm like talking to God. I'm like, yeah, okay, all right,
All right. Message received.
alrighty then. So we start going to huddle, and I'm just like, it's just another layer where I was just like, dude, this exists. Like this is a thing now.
this exists.
You know, I'm still like finding out who I am. You know, and like being baptized. You know, like and then going through this, like I'm a child of God. That's who I am, and to be more like Jesus, I have to do the things that he did, which is read the word, which is serve, and just, love people. Doing the huddle, we started Matthew. I remember reading Matthew, and I'm just like, dude, this is dope. And because we were talking about the parables, and I'm just like, I didn't understand it at first, but the one distinct parable that I remember from our huddle was the yoke.
Uh-huh.
Explaining the yoke and what it is.
Not egg yolk.
Not the egg yolk. Not the egg yolk. And I thought he was talking about the egg yolk, honestly.
I remember this conversation now.
And I was just like, what does it mean? He's just like, well, think about it. Like, there's a cow. A cow carries the yoke, to plow the field, to do its duty. Cows get old, and so they need a more younger calf or cow to take part of that yoke to help shoulder that weight so that it can complete its job. Being a Christian, it's not, and just being any person in life, it's not about doing things alone. And I knew that in that moment that's exactly what I needed to hear, because a lot of my noble acts, a lot of my time in life, it was me trying to do everything alone.
Dang. From childhood all the way to that moment, like that pattern of your life was, wow, like was like almost resolved. Like you found yourself, not because you found yourself, but because you found yourself in community and in the communion with God.
Exactly.
That's who you found yourself for,
Exactly.
if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah. That's exactly what I mean. Like my identity was found in Christ. And, as I, reflected on, that passage and then like what that actually meant for me. And I'm just, you're just dumbstruck. You're just like, this is what it was the entire time. And you're like, why? And, I got into that thinking like, why didn't I think of that beforehand? But it's by design. You're not supposed to know everything. You're not. You're not. God's gonna wait for that time to reveal to you, like, yeah, this is part of it. This is what you need to do next. This is who you are.
It makes me think about when Jesus first rises and he's talking with the two guys on the road and all just talking and stuff. And it's just like, all right. Okay, well, before I paraphrase, like anyone who doesn't know the story, Jesus rises from the dead.
Yes.
And he's walking back, or he wasn't walking back. Two guys were walking back. And Jesus appears in the middle of them. And he asks them, what are you guys talking about? And the guys are like, what do you mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about that guy Jesus who was just killed and all this stuff. And they like go back and forth. And Jesus, them not knowing it was Jesus, it's the Bible says like he kept their eyes, like he kept them from seeing, like in a certain sense. It was like on purpose. And Jesus walks them through the reason for all of the Old Testament and how it led to him. And then right at the end, it says they realized they were talking to Jesus, and then Jesus is gone. It's like, he's like, all right, you get it now.
Yeah,
it's like,
I'm gone.
blinders off. It just makes me think of that. It's just like some things just don't get revealed by our hardest efforts. It's just like we had an interview with a buddy, Peter, and he was talking about sometimes God can just go in and just flip a switch.
Exactly.
It can be as easy as that. And it's like, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's maddening, but also not.
Like there's this veil over us that we
Yeah.
don't even realize we have, and we
Yeah.
keep trying to take it off.
Take it off. Yep.
But only God, when we fully return to God and turn back to Him in repentance, that's the only instance that God is able to reveal and unveil our eyes and our blinders and
Exactly.
reveal those things.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you were to have like a singular themed message for someone listening to your story based on the pattern of your life, what would you say to this person who is trying to pull themselves off their own, or like by their own bootstraps or something? What would you say to those people?
Don't try to do it alone. You know, a lot of, especially during these times where everything starts to become digital, everything starts to, like, you can order something and at the drop of the dime, someone's bringing it to you.
Yep.
You know, you can order food. You can literally do anything. You can call somebody from around the world. Like, I have a sister in Italy, and I can just call her. I can pick up the phone and I can see her through a screen. Everything becomes so convenient that it's getting rid of that personal connection, that this right here. It's getting rid of something like this where you get to be with somebody. And in a sense, being a Christian is counterproductive of that. The togetherness is what should be highlighted. You know, they say things like, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. It really does. Everybody putting their hand in, whether it's money, whether it's childcare or just looking after the child,
Time.
Yeah. It's everybody. It's a joint effort in life. You know, I wouldn't be able to overcome a lot of things if it wasn't for Giselle. Like, she anchors me like none other. You know, she keeps me sane, but at the same time drives me insane. In a good way. If you're watching this or if you're listening, I'm sorry.
You're here for her now.
I'm sorry.
Perfectly balanced as all things should
Putting this
be.
clip
Exactly.
on, specifically this clip on YouTube.
Yeah, just 30 seconds.
That's the highlight reel right there.
That's the real.
But it's the togetherness. It's, you need somebody. You need people around you. That is God's design. You are not meant to do this life alone. And you're not alone. You're not. There is somebody across the way. There's somebody right next to you that could be going through the same thing that you're going through. And I'm not saying that as a cliche. Like, I've met people who have been, you know, through the Catholic religion, and they had the same experience, almost the same experience as me, where they felt estranged from the church, or they didn't feel the Holy Spirit in the church, and then they come to Grace, or, you know, they attend a service and they're just like, they see a whole different side. And, you know, shout out to Grace Church. Like, whatever you guys are doing, keep doing it.
Yeah.
Because you ultimately showed me you were a conduit, you know, for the Lord. You helped me encounter Jesus more times than I can count.
By the grace of the Holy Spirit, we have become family.
Yeah.
And I think that's a superpower.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah. The family of God is the whole gospel being grafted into the family again. You know, obviously family, you know, we can all have different associations when it comes to family.
Yeah.
Context for, you know, our lives growing up in our families, but spiritual family, God's family, that's different. That's what real Christianity is.
Yeah.
Is real family, brothers and sisters.
And you talk about that grafted in. It's like, it's, you think about a plant going into another one. It's like, there's nothing off limits. Yeah. So like living Christian life is like more than just meeting up every so often. It's like, we talk about doing life together. It's every aspect of life is nothing's untouchable.
No,
Like
you're
you
right,
get all
yeah.
the good, bad, and ugly.
Yes.
I got stuff to unload on him after this, honestly.
Awesome.
Amazing. Amazing.
But it's literally that, and and I can imagine, or I can't imagine someone who has dealt with a tougher past, more trauma, allowing people to access that is more than daunting. So it's understandable.
It's dangerous potentially for them.
Very.
Yeah.
That's why it
be.
can be dangerous if the wrong people are accessing it. That's true.
Absolutely.
So it takes that more than just face. It takes that rational mind to like who's coming in and being vulnerable enough to allow them to help
And
in
the
a sense.
safety
Yeah.
to be able to
There's so many more aspects to it.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like that. There's like these umbrella terms, just like community and doing life together. It's just like okay, great, yes, but like that fleshing that out, doing that practically. There's a lot of things that go in along with it, and as your story attests to, it's letting people in. It's taking these uncomfortable steps, seeing God weave that thread through all of these coincidences. Like that's what it looks like.
That's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
it's all to pull you back to him at the end of the day.
Yep.
And now you're back with him.
Yep.
Prodigal son.
Prodigal son. Is
Yo. So go on. Thank you, Dre.
Of course. Thank you.
This is great to listen to and just.
Yeah.
You have like a very moving tone about you when you tell your story. You know that?
It makes me lean. I'm just like I'm
Like-
listening. I'm listening.
we had like no questions to ask you like throughout the whole thing because I'm like, you're just
going.
you're just cooking, bro.
Yeah.
You're just cooking. Like
Let him cook.
you're gonna be that grandpa in the future. Like, gather around, kids. Let me tell you a story.
Oh,
I have
man.
That's gonna be
stories to
you.
tell.
Spin your tail.
Exactly.
That's why you're the prophet.
But
Bruh.
it's more than that, you know. It's like what I tell people now. I remember saying like we were talking about testimonies, and there was a stint where someone, you know, felt like their testimony wasn't good enough or was being attacked by another individual, which is horrible in nature. But I'm just like, yo, your testimony is power.
Yeah.
Your story is power. Don't think anything less of it because somebody doesn't like it or questions it. Like they didn't go what you went through.
No one can take it away
Yeah,
from you.
no
either.
one can
It's
take
yours.
away your testimony from you. Nobody. Testimony is power.
Yeah.
So, you know, and like being in a community, doing life together with others, like they are part of your testimony. They're part of your story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's some powerful stuff you drop here today. Dr. Dre.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
That was good.
Man. Thank you guys for joining us for this episode.
We hope you guys enjoyed listening to Dre's testimony as much as we did. So, you know, if you had a story like Dre's, we would love to hear if he's spoken to you or if the Lord has spoken to you through him. So thank you guys again for your time and for listening in. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Later.
Thanks.